To lettuce on your cheek. It's like, is that leftover?
Okay, folks, it is now 5:30. I'm waiting for this for a little while myself. But I'll call this meeting of Powell River City Council for Thursday, June 5th to order. And the first item is adoption of the agenda. Anybody have any changes, Councillor Palm?
Yes, Your Worship, I don't know if I should bring it up now or in the open meeting, but since we're adopting the entire agenda, I guess I should bring it up now, and that is in the open meeting.
This is open. It's recorded and broadcast.
This is the open meeting. We have got items from the Harbor Committee way down at the bottom of the list here as items number, was it
8 or 12?
12-1, 12-2.
Yeah.
And I have a member from the Harbor Committee that wants to come and present for 2 minutes at the start of the meeting tonight. And I was hoping that we could follow up his delivery with these minutes being referenced and referred to before we either as part of, let me just find it here, for general matters, tonight's agenda.
How about between 7 and 8? Between numbers
7 and 8.
between number 7 and number 8. Everybody okay with that? Any objections? No, we'll go on. Somebody want to move the agenda other than that? Councillor Southcott?
Like, simply for council to discuss this.
Okay, well, you can make that under notices of motion.
Please.
And, with those changes, anybody in favor of the motion to adopt the agenda? Any opposed? That's carried. We don't need all this. You can circulate that at the meeting where we talk about it. Okay. We've all got that. So the next item would be motion to go into a closed meeting. Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you. I move that council move into a closed meeting to discuss matters covered by the community charter under sections 90. Part 1, A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. C, labor relations or other employee relations. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. And I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose.
Need it.
It's council.
We're on the council meeting, so now we need a seconder, and I think it is eagerly seconded. All those in favor of the motion to go into a closed meeting? Any opposed? Carried. We will resume at We are at the end. Oh, it's good. Seem to have a well-formulated idea in your head. Get some side meeting, so back together, kind of focus.
Cindy will, I could, yeah.
Said a lot of things. All of them would work together. Need late already. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the City of Powell River Council for June 5th, 2025 to order. And we've already gone through adoption of the agenda, done our closed meeting, reconvening. I want to recognize that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territories of the Tla'amin people, who have been our generous hosts for a long time, and on the land that they have inhabited through time immemorial. We are right now at the public input period, and you can talk about legislative matter, committee recommendations, or new business. So is there anyone who wants to make a comment during the public input period? You can come up to the microphone, state your name, and you have 2 minutes to say what you have to say.
Hi, my name's Ken Kolba. I'm a member of the Harbor User Advisory Committee. I would like to provide some context for item 12.1 on tonight's agenda. A key priority on the Harbor Committee has been to find ways of increasing harbor revenues, in part to support other city operations while keeping moorage rates affordable for local boaters. I believe the best opportunity to do this is by attracting more transient boaters to Powell River and mooring them in South and Westview harbors as usual, but also in North Harbor slips while the regular occupants of those slips are away. This is standard practice at marinas up and down the coast. I believe opening North Harbor to transient moorage can generate significant new moorage revenue, as well as all the new money that more visiting boaters will spend at local businesses. In this context, I have repeatedly asked that the committee receive some basic financial information, including North Harbor revenues and expenses, operating profit, and how that profit is divided between the North Harbor Reserve and city general revenues. This information is necessary to provide clarity and predictability going forward. Repeated requests for this information have been declined because we have been told such information is outside the scope of the Harbor Advisory Committee's mandate, a claim that is not supported by the committee's terms of reference, nor by any apparent reason. Our requests for other information, as reflected in the February 5th minutes, have been largely resolved through other channels. However, given that the interest costs associated with the North Harbor long-term loan, currently in the range of $80,000 to $90,000 a year, will in all likelihood more than double, perhaps come close to triple in 2027 when the interest rate is reset, there is some urgency to preserve the North Harbor as a viable community asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with any public input? Okay, so we'll, next item on the agenda here is Councillor Palm and the minutes of the harbor committees.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The minutes, I believe, are on our website, Corporate Officer, is that correct? So I'm not going to speak in great length, but I will touch on a few of the items that your committee is dealing with. And I'm going to speak to both sets of minutes, the minutes from February 5th and the minutes from April 2nd. There's a lot of overlap, so I'll try not to go on and on. So first up, Council, you should be aware that your committee is in discussion with Rotary to provide a new fish cleaning station in a different location that it is presently in because it's causing some problems where the fish, when they're cleaned, the debris gets washed down to where the boats are sitting, and the boats are getting covered with bird refuge and animals down there causing havoc. So that's why we're doing that. And one of our members has taken that on as liaison with Rotary, and then Rotary sounds very receptive of the idea. They like it. So they will be soon, once we get the financial scope of that to them, we'll be taking that to staff to work with them. See if we can make that happen by fishing season, which starts on July 15th. Short period of time. I'm not sure it's possible, but we're attempting. We are also working on a customer satisfaction survey for all local voters. So that is in the works, and you will be seeing that come to your table here on June 19th for perusal. And from there, we will, as a committee, be working with staff and the best way to get that out to our voters by email and other aspects of communication. Northwest Explorations, formerly Cooper Boats. We're brought it to the attention that was a handshake deal way back when there were less boats in the harbor at that time, and we wanted more business coming in. So the rates and contract, which I believe were done through a handshake, are being reviewed, and staff is on that and dealing and talking to Cooper Boats to come to a formal agreement on a go-forward basis. Item 6.4, Mr. Koba has been on this since last December, and because of the shortness of our missing staff members and Mallory being Mallory Dennison, our CFO, involved with budgeting and all the rest, it's been hard to get together with her and Ken for a discussion in regards to finances. We are hopeful that will still happen, but it hasn't happened for the last 5 months. So hopefully with Mr. Kolba coming and talking to you this evening, we can make that happen in not too distant. And the main issue that Mr. Kolba is concerned about is the revenue that's generated, not from the Westview and South Harbor, because we were told that some of that goes into general revenue. We understand that, but there was no information which he is asking for on terms of the revenue from the North Harbor and how that reserve is dispensed. So he's concerned about the rebuild of that in 30 or 40 years of lifetime and wants to make sure that those monies are going to be well spent to not put an overburden on the present people occupying our marina that are raising the funds to pay for it. So that's where that lies.
If you're done on that topic, Councillor Palm, I see Ms. Dennison's hand is up on the screen.
Oh.
Ms. Dennison, would you like to comment?
Through the chair to Councillor Palm and Mr. Kolba, thank you for your information. I just would like to bring some more background information to the table here. Finance staff attended multiple committee meetings and provided fulsome financial information. I believe the whole committee was satisfied with the information provided. Mr. Kolba did want some more additional information, so staff committed to returning after the audited financial statements to present the 2024 results. So as you know, those were just adopted a few weeks ago. So that's still on the docket. But in the meantime, I did want to point out that much of this financial information is public and it's contained in the annual on the Tuesday committee of the whole agenda. So if you look in the financial statements there, the audited results are included, and the reserve schedule shows the opening balance for the North Harbour Reserve, the transfers to, transfers from, interest earned on it, and ending balance. I understand that you may want further detail, but I just thought I'd point that out, that there's some information already publicly available. We look forward to meeting with you at an upcoming committee meeting to answer further questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Dennison. Really appreciate that. We'll have a further meeting and follow up with Mr. Kolba and discuss finances of the harbors at great length, I'm sure. I will share with you, Ms. Dennison, that Mr. Kolba, when he reviewed limited information that he had previously, he was greatly concerned, but since he's got his hands on further information through various means, his mind has now been put to a little less adverse circumstances, and he was pleasantly pleased with some of the recent financial numbers that he's uncovered. So I just wanted to share that with you. He's not coming to me hostile in any way. He's just asking for the facts, and which I believe is all public information. So thank you very much. So that is with that item. Just let me get my machine timed out here, back up and running. And I'll share with council that item 6.5 on the February 5th, the item final transit moorage statistics for 224. And if you refer to the minutes of April 2nd, you'll note that there are numbers at the end of that, somewhere on that page, as item 7.6, transit moorage statistics, indicate that this past year in 224, $180,000 was raised. That's a great increase over the present year, which was about 100,000. So that's 80,000 to the good. And we thought, wow, the committee's doing some great work here, bringing more transient boaters through our harbor. But that joy was short-lived when we found out that much of that increase was because the individuals that couldn't get their boat surveyed on time were still in our harbor paying a day rate. So that's what resulted in that hefty number increasing there so much. So our joy was short-lived. I'm not sure how many boaters still do not have insurance and are paying that day rate, but I'm sure there's probably a few of them that have older vessels. Let's see, where was I here? Oh, yes. Let's just go back to February 5th. And in terms of the overall operation of our harbor, I'm happy to report that at our last meeting last night, one of our members brought forward a very comprehensive report from input from other committee members that outlines a lot of the, I'm not going to say deficiencies, but things that need to be addressed in our harbor. And from that list, which we will be dealing at in our next meeting in the first week of July, we will try to go over that list and come up with a priority, where the priorities lie for staff to address. And I'm going to share one with you that you need to be aware of, which came up last night, which is not in these minutes, but you should be aware. And that is the Harbor Authority is conducting investigations or reconnaissance on all the harbors around this area. our loading dock, where the winch resides next to our Wharfinger office, along with Lund and Venanda's Harbor, all of those docks are now considered to be inoperable. And vehicles can no longer travel on that dock. That's been closed, or any of these docks. So the good news is, I had to ask the question last night, who's going to pay for the upgrade? Well, that is the Harbor Authority is going to come in and pay for the expense and do the work, bring that area up to speed at the Westview Harbor. That's good news. Doesn't fall on the city. So just wanted to share that one particular item. And that's why your Harbor Committee is so valuable, with the great amount of expertise that they bring to the table and bring the facts. And there's some really good things happening with that committee, and I'm very happy to be the chair, and there's going to be a lot more good news coming forward. So I've talked long enough, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Palm. I see Councillor Elliott has a question for you on your report.
I have a question about this latest information about Harbor Authority, and I'm just curious. Sorry, I'm speaking to my mic. I'm curious about who the Harbor Authority comes from. Is that a federal government organization, or what is that?
Well, they cover the whole coast here. I'm not sure if they're federal or provincial. I would soon. And our Wharfinger attends meetings. I've attended meetings. I'm not sure. I can't. Mr. Colby, do you know whether that's a federal or provincial?
Federal. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, thanks. We've all learned something tonight. So I have a proclamation for today. It's World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Whereas Powell River seniors are valued members of society, convey a wealth of experience and wisdom in our community, and deserve to live with dignity and respect, it is our collective responsibility to ensure that they live safely and fully in a community that cares about them. Victims of elder abuse are parents, grandparents, neighbors, and friends. Elder abuse is not limited to race, gender, culture, and the circumstance, and whether physical, emotional, or financial. Elder abuse takes an unacceptable toll on individuals and their families. Whereas seniors who experience abuse or neglect face a heightened risk of health-related complications, financial abuse can rob our seniors of the security they have built over a lifetime. Tragically, many older adults suffer in silence, burdened by fear, shame, or impairments that prevent them from speaking out about the abuse. Whereas combating abuse of older adults will help improve the quality of life for all seniors in our community and allow seniors to continue to live as independently as possible and contribute to the life of and vibrancy of Powell River. And whereas Powell River seniors are guaranteed that they will be treated with respect and dignity to enable them to continue to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and important and active members of this community. And whereas the well-being of Powell River seniors is in the interest of all and further adds to the well-being of Powell River. Now, therefore, I, George Dowd, acting mayor of the city of Powell River, do hereby proclaim June 15th, 2025 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day and encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of our seniors. Agree with that 100%. Moving along to our consent agenda. It's a short consent agenda. Anybody have any items that they want to remove from the consent agenda? Don't think so, because that would leave nothing there. Councillor Elliott.
I would move the consent agenda.
We have a seconder, Councillor Alameda. All those in favor of passing the consent agenda? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. And now we find ourselves going to legislative matters, which is the development permit 400 and development variance permit 290, Tla'amin Nation, 5903 Arbutus Avenue. Do we have a staff report from the Director of Planning Services?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present this report. It is a report related to a development permit and associated development variance permit for a proposed 3-story multi-unit residential development at 5903 Arbutus Avenue. On the screen, you can see what is Appendix B to the staff report. It shows the parcel that is the subject of these applications. It's located at the corner of Marine and Arbutus Avenue in Townsite. Tla'amin Nation is the property owner and has submitted development applications for this parcel of land. And the project is referred to as T-Squat Affordable Housing Project. Project funding has been secured through the Provincial Indigenous Housing Fund to construct what will be a 30-unit residential development that will provide affordable housing to Indigenous families. Of the 30 units proposed, 18 or 60% will have 2 bedrooms, with the remaining 12 having 3 bedrooms. 2 of the 2-bedroom units are proposed to be accessible. Dedicated amenity and service and support space is also being proposed to provide our residents a place to gather and strengthen community connections. In terms of land use, the subject property is zoned NT institutions, and it is designated mixed-use commercial residential in the Sustainable Official Community Plan. Somewhat as an aside, but connected, Tla'amin Nation has also submitted a concurrent subdivision application that proposes to subdivide the property into 3 parcels. On the screen, you can see that proposed plan of subdivision. 1 lot will house the existing building on site, known as the Alano Club. The middle lot will house the proposed multifamily residential building. And the 3rd lot, furthest south on this drawing, will remain vacant for the time being. As for Council's role, before Tla'amin Nation can make a building permit application, Council must grant approval for a form and character development permit and a development variance permit. Based on the location and the type of development proposed, 2 development permit areas are applicable, and these are Development Permit Area 1, multifamily residential, and Development Permit Area 4, Town Site Center Mixed Use Area. So the next slides that I have for you are just renderings that were provided by the applicant's consultant. I have about 5 of them, and I'm just going to walk you through the renderings. So this first view is of the main entrance of the building from Arbutus Avenue. The image illustrates how the building will be street-oriented and sited to support easy navigation from the public street to the main entrance. It also highlights the proposed use of wood and other finishes to achieve a West Coast theme materiality. The building will use a diverse color palette of warm tones, Indigenous art, imagery, and motifs, and other distinguishing features inspired by Tla'amin Nation's cultural heritage to articulate the facade to avoid a monolithic appearance. Next image is from the southeast. It's a similar view, but we're actually closer here to what will be the resident community gathering space. That is the first floor area there, kind of surrounded in wood. The view also shows how the design was informed by traditional 19th century coast Salish longhouses. Defining features of these longhouses include a shed roof, horizontal cladding, and a post and beam structure, all aspects of which are reflected in the final design of the building. Here you can also start to see some of the comprehensive landscaping and outdoor amenity spaces proposed. On the left there in the foreground, you can see a clay structure that is proposed as well. This is a view of the southern elevation. This view shows more of the outdoor amenity spaces proposed. You can also see the green roof that's, again, proposed to be on top of the indoor gathering space. What is also shown here is how the on-site parking is proposed to be behind the building and not visible from the street, which is on the right-hand side of the image. Sorry, the parking is on the left-hand side. Arbutus is on the right-hand side, and what you can see there superimposed in the distance is the Arbutus apartments. And then the last two views are just more of the building facade, landscaping, and how the development will be integrated into the site. Overall, the proposed development aligns with the applicable development permit guidelines. However, as highlighted in the recommendation, there are a few areas where conformance is not achieved. I bring this to your attention as council is permitted to approve a development permit that does not align with all the guidelines, as the decision to do so is considered a policy decision, supportable if council is aware of those areas of non-conformance. The first aspect of non-conformity relates to the width of the proposed building, which exceeds a width of 35 meters when viewed from the street. That is one of the guidelines from DPA 1. It says no buildings should exceed 35 meters when viewed from the street. The proposed building will measure roughly twice this length. While this is contrary to the guidelines, it is most critical where buildings are proposed to front streets that will run parallel to the coastline and existing views will be impacted. And this typically occurs in Westview, where we have a lot of north-south running streets. And so something that we have to be a little bit more careful when we're seeing designs come forward in that neighborhood. The second area where conformance is not achieved relates to guidelines that require buildings within the town site center mixed use area to respect the heritage character of historic town site buildings. While the proposed development represents a departure from the heritage and stylistic attributes characteristic of residential home design in town site circa 1910 to 1940, staff recommend that the proposed form, character, and the intent of the design concept is supportable given the historical significance of this location to Tla'amin Nation as a former village site. Once built, the building will stand as a landmark development, complementary yet in contrast to what has historically been considered appropriate and or permissible in the neighborhood of town site. The last image I have for you is, it's actually the landscape plan, but it's a great opportunity for us to talk about the parking variance. So based on part 6 of the zoning bylaw, 51 off-street parking spaces are required for this development. The applicant is requesting to reduce that number by 15 spaces for a total of 36 spaces. And that would be 1 parking space per dwelling unit plus 6 additional spaces for visitors. Staff are supportive of the variance requested given the strategic location of the subject property within town site. Transit stops are nearby, and there are a number of neighborhood amenities in close proximity to the subject property, including town site public market, the Patricia Theater, restaurants, and a convenience store. Policy language in the Sustainable Official Community Plan is supportive of a reduction in parking requirements where affordable, rental, or special needs housing is located close to amenities and public transit. Support for a variance of this nature would align with previous council decisions for similar housing developments. And one of the key ones that I can think of right now is Tipton Place. Again, council approved that not too long ago, where there was a reduction from 63 parking spaces down to 42. So that is the completion of what I wanted to share with you in relationship to the applications. You have recommendations before you. I also want to highlight that this is still relatively new, but we are in a time now where rather than bringing development variance permits to you early, we do the notice and then we bring them to you on a council evening so that you could adopt or you could approve for issuance both the development permit and the development variance permit if you so choose tonight. That completes my presentation. Thank you.
Questions? Anyone have any questions for Mr. Gao? Councillor Elliott.
I hate to disappoint, you see. Thank you, Acting Mayor Doubt. My question has to do with the parking and whether the building intends to have regular staff as well. And if so, if that was factored into having parking for each of the units and the staff and potential visitors, or if it doesn't, or if it's more typical of a complex that does not have regular staff. So that's my question.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, it is a building more typical that it wouldn't have regular staff. It's not supportive housing, it's affordable housing, so it wouldn't necessarily have the type of staff you might see at, as an example, supportive. I also point out that the building where the Alano Club will remain with Tla'amin in terms of their ownership, and it is my understanding that that building will be used to also support activities for the residents here, and that building actually does have some off-site parking as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Councillor Almeida.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a follow-up to Councillor Elliott's question, I guess with a 30-unit complex and 36 spots, we're looking at just over an average of 1 spot per unit, but they're all 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom units. So I guess I'm curious if we know at this point that there'll be a restriction on spots per unit, and then what, if any, is the street parking limitations in that area?
To the chair to Councillor Almeida, I'm not. Unfortunately, I don't know about the model that Tla'amin intends to use in terms of designated parking spots for residents. In terms of street parking, and I think you read this in one of your, it was in the binder associated with Development Variance Permit 290. There is some concern about Arbutus Avenue being a busy spot, or the Arbutus apartments. They themselves utilize a lot of the street, but there is parking further down Arbutus, typically on both sides. But again, I think that this follows the model that we've been looking at on a number of other buildings in the last little while. So Tipton Place, 1 unit per unit. Tipton Place was a 40-unit building, and 42 parking spaces were provided. And where supportive housing, these are, affordable housing where again, looking at the affordable rental rates that are being considered, they are quite affordable, and so really intended to be for families where means may be challenging. And so the expectation is that we're not talking about 2-car families, we're talking about a 1-car family.
I've got one question, Mr. Gao, is that the recommendation's got 2 parts. The first part is to approve for issuance Development Variance Permit 290, and the second part is for council to approve the issuance of Development Permit 400. My impression is that if council passes these, they're done. There won't be any return to council for any more decisions, and no further input from the public. Am I right about that?
Through the chair to the acting mayor, that is correct, yes.
Thank you. Just wanted to be perfectly clear. Councillor Palm.
Yeah, thank you. Your worship, your chair. Thank you, Chair. So this is a great opportunity to express to our friends in Tla'amin our respect of their heritage because of the makeup of this building, that location. For those of you that are new to the community, this used to be the land that our original hospital, or one of the original hospitals, was on. My kids were born in that hospital. And this is a great thing, because I am hoping that we can come closer together and return to wholesome meetings and celebrate each other's heritage of this land that we live on. In some way on a go-forward basis to celebrate your, not only Tla'amin's heritage, but the city's heritage of Powell River. And I've got a few specific questions that I want to comment on, Your Worship. And one is, this land was given to Tla'amin, and I'm not aware whether this land has been put in treaty yet. And I'm wondering if anybody has the answer to that question. Mr. Brewer, it is not. Okay, so we will.
Councillor Palm,
Yes.
the report points out that there has been a request to the provincial government supported by the city of Powell River to convert these lands to treaty settlement lands.
Right.
That's been in the works for some time now, but it's in the hands of the provincial government, and I think we all hope it happens soon.
I just wanted to get that clarified. In terms of the land not being put into treaty yet, is there plans for an archaeological study on the site? Does anybody know?
It's in the report.
There are plans. Okay, very good. I'm a little concerned over the size increase, double the size without any further input from the public. And I note in the report, Chair, that it's up to staff to put out notice to residents living in the area of up to 200 feet in circumference around the site. And there's also the stipulation that staff may ask for a further lengthening of that 200 meters. I'm just wondering where that is, Mr. Gao, and how does the public have any input in this process if we pass these resolutions this evening?
Through the chair to Councillor Brown. So let me be clear. The notice that was issued was issued a couple of weeks ago or week and a half ago. It was specific to the variance. Development permits are not an opportunity for the public to weigh in on in terms of form and character. They're not a discretionary approval per se, whereas a variance is a discretionary approval, and that's where you get public input. So really the question to the public was about the reduction in parking.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gall. Thanks for that clarification. I am a little concerned about the parking, and I'm hoping that during development, there are lines painted right out in front on the sharp hairpin turn from Marine on to Arbutus, so that we don't have congestion on that particular piece of road. And I'm glad to hear that there is room on Arbutus for overflow parking on both sides. Hopefully that will deal with it. So those are my questions, Your Worship, and I just would like to conclude by saying, let's work together. This is a great thing. T-squat on the front of that building. And, let's stop talking about names on everything. Let's come together in peace for the greater benefit of our entire region. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to assure people that I don't subscribe to the language that says we've given Tla'amin land, and I'm incredibly proud to be part of a council that's been working together with Tla'amin as they reacquire lands that were theirs traditionally and have had lands returned to them, and would hope that we all understand that using words like given to is not really appropriate in the circumstances. And I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Councillor Isaacson.
I'm going to make the motion that council approve for issuance development variance permit 290 that would vary City of Powell River zoning bylaw 2100/2006 by relaxing the required number of off-street parking spaces from 51 to 36 on the property legally described as Lot 3, Blocks 46 and E District Lot 450 Plan 12506 PID 002-457-997 to facilitate a multi-unit residential development, and that council approve for issuance development permit 400 to facilitate a multi-unit residential development on the property legally described as Lot 3, Blocks 46 and E District Lot 450 Plan 12506 PID 457992 with an understanding that not all development permit guidelines found in development permit area DPA 1, multifamily residential and development permit area DPA 4, town site center mixed use area from the City of Powell River's official community plan will be met as per comments included in the staff report dated June 5th, 2025, subject to the receipt of a landscape security deposit to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning Services.
Seconded by Councilor Alameda. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I'll just speak to it. I think, as Councillor Elliott mentioned, this is a return of housing on this land that was formerly a village site. I'm excited by it. I wanted to draw attention to the fact that in the development permit we're talking about it references lot 450, which is a historic lot that used to span a much greater area, and was given to a private individual and taken away from Tla'amin people. So the legacy of lot 450 remains by the description of this lot in this development permit application. So I'm very excited about it. I think it will add a visual twist to the neighborhood. It will add vibrancy to a currently empty piece of, well, not an empty piece of land, but a currently, a part of land that's not providing housing, and congratulate them on successfully receiving funding and getting some more folks housed in our community with housing being such a challenge. Thank you.
Going to make a comment myself. And I was excited to see this process coming through and looking at the design, and it's indigenous art composition, the collections there, the design elements that reflect longhouse or big house designs that used to be within the same area on lot 450. The fact that it's bringing affordable housing into an important part of our town, which has a commercial center, which is going to thrive with more people in the neighborhood. I've read the letters that we received from people about parking, and just want to notice that I park there a couple of times a year in front of where that building's going to be. Seems whenever I go to a Remembrance Day ceremony, that's where the cars are all lined up on both sides of the streets, and I've always been able to park beside the sidewalk in that area without any worries of traffic getting in my way. So I think that's a positive thing. There's one other thing in the report that I want to address, and it's in the city's design elements is wanting to avoid flat roofs. But if you look at that area along Arbutus Street, there's two other buildings that are on the street, plus the City Motors garage, actually, and including the City Motors garage, the McClat Recovery House, and the building where Al-Anon currently has its meetings. And all of those are flat roof buildings. And I just wanted to point that out. So no, I don't think this is going to be grating with the town site heritage situation. I think it's going to contribute to the neighborhood, and I think it's great to see. And, it's even further in the report, there's talks about if this land is eventually designated treaty settlement lands, which I want it to be, then we can have a service agreement negotiated between the city and the Tla'amin Nation for services provided. So I'm in favor of this 100%. Anyone else? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. And the next one, we're all in anticipation of draft bylaw 2776/2025, revenue anticipation borrowing. Ms. Dennison, do you have a report on that?
Make the motion.
Through the chair, I can provide just a quick summary of the report. So Section 177 of the Community Charter grants municipalities the ability to access short-term borrowing based on the current year's anticipated tax revenue. So this short-term borrowing functions as an advance intended solely to maintain liquidity during the tax collection period and to be used only if necessary. Once the municipality has collected its anticipated property taxes, the money borrowed under the Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw would be repaid. The city is not required to borrow any of the funds if it is deemed unnecessary. However, it is prudent to put adequate measures in place if some unforeseen collection issues arise. The city adopts a revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw each year, mostly as a risk mitigation measure. This bylaw is attached as Appendix B to the report to Council for consideration of 3 readings. And I'll just finally close with the fact that we haven't seen a need to borrow under the capacity of this bylaw in any history that I've been able to uncover through minutes. But it is, again, as we said, very prudent to have in place. Thank you for your time.
Councillor Alameda.
I'll make the motion that City of Powell River Revenue Anticipation Bylaw 2776, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time.
Seconder. Scott. Any discussion? Councillor Palm.
Thank you, Worship. Chair, one quick question to Ms. Dennison, and that is, this is an annual event now. We've done this last year. Have we ever used any of these funds that we have had by passing this type of motion in the past? We ever had to access them?
Through the chair, I have no record. As far as the records that I can access go back, I have no record of accessing these funds under the Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. We've done 12.1 and 12.2. Brings us down to new business. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. So His Worship Ron Wasnow and I worked together to put this resolution together, and I could read it out if we like, and then it would be to the pleasure of council of whether we would approve sending this forward to UBCM. Whereas the April 2025 COFI report on competitiveness and sustainability in the BC forest sector identifies BC as falling behind in all areas except for environmental policy. And whereas BC has significant undercuts year after year that significantly contribute to industry uncertainty of fiber supply, leading to lack of business sustainability and investment in the wood products sector with dire results such as mill closures. And whereas the undercuts are a result of factors such as a time-consuming, cumbersome, unpredictable permitting process, rapid and unpredictable policy changes, and in some cases, lack of agreements with First Nations about tenure, revenue sharing, shared decisions, or ownership. Therefore, be it resolved that UBCM call upon the provincial government and ministers of forest to take immediate steps to create regulatory certainty for planning and permitting the harvest of the full existing licensed AAC and negotiate agreements with First Nations that increase certainty in accessing fiber, resulting in improved sustainability of the forest industry, forest-dependent communities, First Nations, and the forest economy of British Columbia.
Question. Elaborate, Councillor Elliott.
I could defer to the mayor if he's of a mind to have a comment.
Excuse me. Thanks, Councillor. This initiative came from meetings at UBCM and the Truck Loggers Association, COFI, over the last 3 years. And very simply put, the city of Powell River has probably lost about $7 million in revenue that are companies and restaurants and other entities would have had, because that's the estimate that the reduction in terms of revenue from Western Forest Products and other companies have experienced. I think we also are well aware of the deficit that the government has run last year, and certainly expect it'll be a similar deficit this year. And the thing about the forest industry, it actually creates wealth as opposed to simply distributing wealth. So that was the rationale in terms of bringing this forward, and I thank Councillor Elliott for working with me on it.
Brilliant.
In addition to what the mayor's impetus was, I also sit on the Western Forest Products Local Community Advisory Group, and we were presented in part the April 2025 COFI report just in April, which was after our AVICC, which was kind of new and really well presented information about the sustainability of our industry in British Columbia that helps us provide very good information and for this resolution going forward, and explains it's new information that we couldn't have put a resolution to AVICC, so we think it's appropriate to send it directly to UBCM as it's timely and urgent. Thank you.
Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Brings us to 15.2. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. So some of you may recall that we had a delegation about this cigarette butts just a few weeks ago, and I worked with the individuals, and I'm sorry that names escape me at the top of my head at the moment, but I'll give her due credit in a second when I look that back up. But I'll read the resolution and put it on the table, and then I'll speak to it in a second. Whereas cigarette butts are non-biodegradable, toxic, and have significant negative impacts on the aquatic and terrestrial environment, and whereas UBCM passed a resolution in 2016 about creation of a cigarette butt deposit return program, which has not resulted in progress. And whereas cigarette butts continue to be a significant source of contamination via litter across British Columbia, therefore be it resolved that UBCM call upon the Minister of Environment to require a province-wide cigarette butt return program or prohibit the sale of non-biodegradable cigarette butts.
Discussion.
Thank you. So the delegate that brought forward this issue to us, it brought it forward kind of too late for AVICC. She pointed out that we did have an approved resolution via UBCM, and we researched the response, and the response was it wasn't a priority at that time, and it seemed that there might be some issues with trying to make a deposit return program for cigarette butts that looked like it wasn't going to make progress. So we decided to bring it forward to UBCM again, saying the issue hasn't gone away. We need a different solution if we're not going to go with that first initial solution. And so we are asking that non-biodegradable cigarette butts either be returned, have a program from the people selling it, put it back on the folks selling it, or that they make butts that are biodegradable and not sell non-biodegradable cigarette butts and prohibit them, because we need a solution that does not pass it along to municipalities, the province, and everybody else to clean up this waste that is being created by companies selling non-biodegradable cigarette butts. And so we're hoping we can bring this resolution forward with the support of the council and maybe get a resolution to this issue.
Any hands? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? I think that's carried unanimously. Oh, we have no introduction of late items, but I do believe that one of our members of the body wants to introduce a notice of motion.
Thank you, Chair. It's very simple. I want to introduce a notice of motion that council consider a package of information that he has sent to council by email that I handed out in print before the meeting for discussion at our next council meeting.
Okay, that's on the list. So just to add a little bit, it's a proposal for a tiny home community. So there we are. That brings us to number 18, Councillor Elliott.
I was remiss in mentioning the name of the public person that brought the issue forward, and it was Jan Stakov and Megan Hildebrand that brought that issue forward. And so I just wanted to make sure the public knew that.
Which one is that, the cigarette butt one?
Yes, the cigarette butt resolution. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So now, time for public clarification. Anybody can ask any question on what on at tonight's council meeting. Come on up, sir, and ask your question.
John Brosell, just down the street here. Councillor Dote, you said when you were wrapping up about the hospital site that when everything's up and it goes to treaty lands, you would negotiate a service contract. Is a service contract should be in from day one, should also be tied to our tax increases. And when it does go to treaty, you will not be dealing with anything you have control of. It will be government to government. So they should not be paying the same rate as what our citizens are paying to maintain the whole system. And my second question is, currently it not being in treaty lands, have we been collecting tax money on the property, city taxes?
According to my information, the existing land is owned by the Tla'amin Nation.
Yes.
Not owned by the city. So, you know, I'm going to ask probably Ms. Dennison or Mr. Gao to explain the current status of that piece of land and why a service agreement would be appropriate at such a time as there is a change of the ownership to treaty settlement.
Through the chair to Councillor Dowd acting as mayor. Perhaps I'll talk about the servicing agreement and my colleague Ms. Dennison can talk about taxation. So a service agreement is being drafted currently. That is something that we would be working on so that when the property becomes treaty settlement land and the city provides services to another government, we have a contract in place that lays out the fees for the services provided. This is exactly what was recently done for the wastewater treatment facility. Tla'amin and the city have entered into a servicing agreement for services being provided. While those lands are within the city's boundary, they would pay taxes, and I would lean on my colleague, Ms. Dennison, to talk more in detail about that. But you know, they would, for any value, any assets that are being added to the property, they would be taxed on that, and the services delivered would be paid just like other property owners. Ms. Dennison, if you wouldn't mind.
You're kind of cutting out a little bit there, Ms. Dennison.
Lands are within the municipal. One moment, please. I'll switch. Source.
Just heard the last couple of words you said. And right now we can't hear anything at all.
And perhaps in Mallory's absence or Ms. Dennison's absence, I can attempt to do my best to describe taxation. I think that Cohaman owns fee simple lands in other locations and they pay taxes on those lands, as does the regional district, as another example. This particular property, the Alano Club, has applied for a permissive tax exemption and has received that for the value of the assets that are on the building over the past couple of years. I'm not sure that that answers all the questions you're looking for, but that's what I'm able to confirm for you.
So you're
Through
saying-
the chair, and is this working now? I apologize. Okay, wonderful. The headset is back in business here. I apologize. That is correct. Mr. Gao is correct in his conclusions there.
So Slam applied for a tax exemption as what, a charitable organization? That the council approved tax exemption? Or nonprofit? Are we going for any of these?
If
Typical that I would
what's
have
your
to apply for?
question, I can get you an answer. Ms. Dennison, did anyone apply for a permissive tax exemption on that property?
Through the chair, the Alano Club is a nonprofit organization that applied for a permissive tax exemption relating to the piece of the building that they use and the land beneath it. And it was approved because they are eligible under the charter to receive that permissive tax exemption because it is a nonprofit using the building.
Councillor Southcott, you have something to add?
Thank you, Chair. Just one bit of history here. Back in Mayor Alsgaard's time, I think in his last term, the council of that day, in recognition that that piece of land was an original area where the T-Squat village of the Tla'amin people existed, committed to the Tla'amin Nation to transfer ownership of that land. It didn't actually happen until 12 or 15 years later, and that was at least a term and a half ago now. At that time, the intention was that that land be returned entirely into not just ownership, fee simple, but as treaty settlement land. And that was at the time, or just subsequent to the time Tla'amin Nation negotiated their final agreement, so their treaty essentially. So since then, shortly after that, an application went from the city approved that, the council of that day, and the application went to the province because it is the province's jurisdiction to change the status of that land. What will happen, like happened to some other parcels, back Edge Hill Way, or is an example, back at the time of the Tla'amin Treaty being signed, is that it will be removed from the boundaries of, it'll be removed from the city. So it'll become Tla'amin land and not, it'll be returned to Tla'amin as Tla'amin land, and it will not be a part of the city. So any relationship that results in them the Tla'amin receiving any kind of services, sewer, water, etc., will then become contract between the city and Tla'amin Nation.
I'm with you on that, but nowhere in there did you say that they got it fee simple, we'll call it. Nowhere as it said that they got a tax exemption for the past 12 years.
They haven't had.
They've been paying taxes on it for the 12 years.
They've been paying taxes on that and all other parcels
They paying tax.
within the city.
You guys went around and around.
Letting me talk.
Before everybody talks at the same time, one answer is usually good enough.
Okay, thank you.
The chief financial officer has said that there was an application for a permissive tax exemption this year, and those permissive tax exemptions were granted by council at public meetings. Do you have something to add to the discussion, Councillor Elliott?
Yes, sir, Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The permissive tax exemption doesn't cover the entire parcel. It covers the section of the just the building that's being used by the nonprofits. And it's common for a number of nonprofits throughout the city to have that same deal. The lands that are taxed are paid and have been paid the entire time. The policy of the government for treaty settlement lands that are, or for treaty lands that are withdrawn from a municipality is to have, they require First Nations to negotiate a service agreement with the municipality and a financial agreement with school boards prior to receiving reserve status where applicable. And in general, under these agreements, First Nations typically pay the same amount they would if the land was not reserve lands. And so those service agreements, so the land gets removed from the city, but the service agreements tend to land very similarly to what they would pay if they were within the city boundaries and paying taxes. And that's part of the policy for how we handle transfer of lands within a municipality to treaty lands. And it's set up through the treaty policies of the Canadian government. And I'm hoping that answers your question.
Any other questions? Anyone online, staff? Anyone online with any questions? Mr. Galinsky, you have a question. Thank you. Looks like we're done. We are adjourned, having completed all the business.